Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and today we are going to be seeing what the expert FPL managers are doing for the final time this season in Gameweek 38. As well as that, we will be looking at the ranks of our experts. How are they doing this season? Are they in the top 100k, 50k, 10k, 1k? We're going to see that later on in the video. So guys, if you do enjoy it, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's see what those experts are up to. So thank you once again to the 100 FPL experts, content creators and enthusiasts who have helped us out with the content this week and actually every week this season. They have been absolute legends and really helped all of us out. So massive shout out, massive thank you. Honestly, we could not do this series without them and they've been legends all year once again. Do make sure you check them out if you see them on any social platforms. So looking at generally what they are up to in Game Week 38, well, 72% are making one transfer, 20% are making two transfers, 1% are making three or more transfers, 3% using a free hit or wildcard, and 4% making no transfers whatsoever. A couple of notes here. First of all, not too many hits being taken. I know a lot of people probably are thinking right now, final game week, let's take a bunch of hits and see what happens. Well, actually, among our experts, no one's really taking hits at all. Only a few of them are taking hits for their FPL team. They're just using either their one free transfer or their two free transfers if they managed to roll one last game week. So not a game week for hits. Of course, in a one game week scenario, it's very, very difficult to make up the points that you do spend on taking a hit in your FPL team. So perhaps just not worth it this week. Stick to what you've got in terms of transfers and only make additional transfers if absolutely necessary. We have got a few people using their free hit. We'll speak about that in a moment. But interestingly, 4% not using a transfer at all this week. Already very, very happy with their team. Of course, in situations where you are tied for points with some other players, whoever's spent the least amount of transfers during the season actually ends up getting the higher rank if you're tied for points with someone else. So actually a few of our FPL managers are thinking, like, I like my team. I don't need to make a transfer. Why don't I just not make one and see if it makes a tiny difference to my rank? I guess if you really want to play it that way, fair enough. But I think most people are going to be making transfers this week, to be honest, and that's backed up by our data. So looking at the chip usage, no one's got their wild card left, but we have got 3% using the bench boost this week. Just a couple people using that chip. 1% using the triple captain. Interesting. In the final game week of the season, that is going to be on Erling Haaland, that one triple captain. We've got 3% using a free hit as well. Saved their chip all the way to the end of the season. That is patience, I'll tell you that. But 93% not using a chip. It's not a massive chip week, but if you do have a chip left, hey, you may as well use it because you can't roll it into the 2024-25 season, can you? So use it or lose it. Guys, a few people have asked me if you have a chip left, which one should you use if you have multiple chips left? I guess if you have multiple chips left, kind of look at your team. If your bench looks really strong, then use the bench boost. If you are looking at your captain and thinking, I think they're going to score a lot of points, then you use the triple captain. Or if you just don't like your team at all, then you use the free hit. I think in general, ideally, you want to use the bench boost. That's probably going to gain you the most amount of points unless your team just looks horrible, in which case free hit is the answer, or triple captain. It really just depends. How good is your bench? So that is how you answer that question for those of you who are asking me who somehow have more than one chip left at the end of the season. You guys are too patient for your own good. Right, let's start off by looking at the Game Week 38 most popular transfers in the world before we start looking at some expert transfers. So, yeah, we can see straight away that GW38 is very, very popular this week. Everyone is bringing him in the overall player base. 140,000 transfers in already for him. Considering a lot of people waiting for the deadline to make their transfers or closer to the deadline as we await more team news. Yeah, this is a lot. Olise second place here and Havertz third. After that, bit of a drop-off in numbers, but we do see Mateta, Foden, Pedro Porro and Haaland with a little bit of popularity for themselves as well. But I tell you what is really, really interesting. It's how this correlates with our expert data. Okay, let me show you what we got here, guys. So, Olise, Havertz and Trossard, each of these players have, you know, some interest among our experts. We are going to see exactly how much interest our experts have in these three players as we move on to the next sections in the video. But what is really, really interesting here is this. Guardiola, Pedro Porro, Haaland and Son. none of these are popular among our experts. None of them whatsoever. In fact, Pedro Porro and Son actually being sold by a few of our experts. Of course, Erling Haaland, everyone owns him anyway. I think a lot of people own Son already as well. But I think that among our experts, you know, if they don't have Son already, they're certainly not looking to buy him. And if they do, well, some are even considering selling him. So it's not a week to buy Son. Pedro Porro, not a week to buy him. Everyone has Erling Haaland anyway. And as for Guardiola, this is an interesting one because I know only around 40% of our experts have Guardiola in their teams already. However, no one's bringing him in this week. So what is that saying? It's saying that our experts are basically thinking, if I have him already, I will keep him because no one's transferring him out. But if I don't have him, well, I perhaps use my transfers in other areas of the pitch. And what you'll soon see in this video is that there's a heavy focus on the attacking players rather than the defensive players among our transfers, because as we know, Game Week 38, a famously very high goal-scoring game week, and therefore there's not as much value in defenders as there is in attackers this game week. So no one looking to bring in Guardiola to their team this week among our experts. Of course, a lot of them already have him, but nowhere near all. So yeah, interesting. And I think if you don't trust that, well, we are going to go at the end of this video and actually look what the ranks are of our experts at the end of this video. So you're going to see how well our experts are doing this season and then what they might be going into for Game Week 38 as well. So let's look at see what they are doing in terms of transferring out, and there is actually a really, really tight spread here. There is not too many players with a lot of transfers out, but those who are being transferred out, well, there's a lot of transfers out for them, and it really seems to be revolving around midfielders this game week for our experts. So first of all, Gordon may have a potential injury, playing away from home, not the greatest fixture in the world this game week, so therefore, against Brentford, do we just need to sell Gordon? I think it's pretty straightforward to sell him at this point. He's not a player that you need to have going into Game Week 38, and if you do have him, you're probably just going to bench him anyway, so therefore, you may as well sell him, particularly as there is some emerging options to replace him with. Bruno Fernandes, yes, he was back in the team for Manchester United, but another not so great fixture for Manchester United in the final day of the season away against Brighton. They've been pretty solid defensively at times this season, particularly more recently. So therefore, is Fernandes just a sell? At that kind of price tag with the other options available up to us this game week with high potential, I think, again, Fernandes, pretty straightforward transfer out. So Gordon, Fernandes, easy sells if you have them in your fantasy team. De Bruyne next up. A few transfers out for him as well. He may potentially have an injury. And of course, as we get more information about De Bruyne's injury situation, that may influence decisions of whether he should be sold or not. But a player who is that expensive, if he's not playing, you got to sell him. Son, a few transfers out for him. He's been in bad form recently. Garnacho actually is another player being sold. So another Manchester United player being sold. Big trends towards selling Manchester United players this game week, actually, particularly with some of the kind of lower owned players. You know, we're looking at Maguire's still in people's teams, Dallo's, players like that, Onana potentially. Yeah, Man United players are being sold. And finally, Isak, another Newcastle player away against Brentford, which is a tough fixture. So yeah, we're seeing some trends here. Sell those midfielders who have tough fixtures, who are potentially injured, and who have been in bad form, and replace them with, well, let me tell you. Michael Elise topping the list for most popular transfers in among our experts. I did not think we would be saying this a couple of weeks ago, but here we are. He seems to be the big punt playing at home against an out of form, exhausted, and nothing to play for Aston Villa team. Well, hey, this could be absolutely enormous. We're expecting Crystal Palace to get a few FPL goals and returns in this game week, and therefore we got to target the players who we think are going to get the points. And Elise, given his current form, given these on-set pieces as well, we do see that Aston Villa have a little bit of weakness against those set pieces at the moment. And I think Elise has just been in such good form. He's scoring from, you know, he's just such a great finisher from distances in particular. It's been really, really a handy player to have, particularly at the nice cheap price tag that he is. So he is very much the not only differential player, but a hype player among our experts. And although he's not very well owned in Game Week 37, in Game Week 38, we're going to see a lot of the top managers going for the Crystal Palace man for this game week and hoping for a really big score. We know Elise is a high upside player who has huge points potential. Every time he seems to play, he seems to score really, really well. So therefore, great pick. Kai Havertz, probably could probably consider it a little bit more template, a little bit more standard. A lot of people already have him already. Yeah, maybe a little safer. Doesn't quite have the same maybe ceiling as an Elise, but Havertz certainly a very high ceiling player for Arsenal as well against Everton. A little bit tougher fixture, but Arsenal must-win game. Havertz playing as a striker, listed as a midfielder. You know, it makes a lot of sense. Mo Salah, last game under Jurgen Klopp at the Anfield Stadium, and potentially Salah's last game in the Premier League as well. So you can definitely understand the appeal of going for him up against Wolves. It's a really, really nice fixture for him. Wolves badly out of form, and Salah maybe something to prove on the final day of the season. Saka, this is an interesting one. Saka is actually by far the most sold player in the overall FPL player base. But among our experts, well, yeah, they like Saka. They want to bring Saka in. So that really does show the difference between what the general player base is thinking and the experts are thinking. And you know what I say about this, guys? Whenever the experts have vastly different transfer trends than the overall player base, that often means opportunity and green arrows. Really, really does. So, yeah, this could be an opportunity here if you already own Saka or looking to bring him in this week. Eberechi Eze here as well. You know, Elise is the preferred Crystal Palace midfielder, but there's still some interest in Eze as well. Trossard differential there. Mateta from Crystal Palace and Raya and White if you fancy going down the Arsenal defensive route. But that really is everything in terms of going for defenders this week. It's Raya or White. There really is no other interest in any other defenders or goalkeepers. It seems to be all about the midfielders this game week. I should also say that there was loads of differential punts being taken this game week among our experts. I'm not going to list them all, but yeah, they were all over the place. I think game week 38 is a little bit of a crazy game week, so I tried to stick with the players who actually have interesting trends for the data this game week, because you could go for any punt in the world, and I'm sure there's going to be some reason to go for them. Let's suggest some transfers, very straightforward ones today, guys. Gordon to Elise seems super, super obvious. You know, if you have Gordon, you can afford Elise. So, yeah, nice. Remove a player who might be injured, has a bad fixture away from home, and replace them with a player who's in great form, has a great fixture at home in the final day of the season with loads of goals on the line, who takes set pieces. Yeah, it's like a no-brainer, isn't it? At least a really, really obvious transfer move to make. Of course, if you do prefer someone like Eze, if you do prefer Trossard, I think they are viable alternatives as well if you want to go a bit differential. Bruno Fernandes to Kai Havertz. Again, very straightforward transfer. Havertz is, you know, the man in form for Arsenal, getting FPL points every single game week. Why not? And De Bruyne to Salah. If you have De Bruyne, it looks like he's going to be injured. You don't want to have 10.6 million asset sitting on your bench. Well, you may as well upgrade them to Salah if you can afford to do so. Particularly those making multiple transfers this week were doing so in order to get Salah. But obviously most just using one transfer. So Salah is not going to be accessible for those with only one transfer maybe. But if you have two transfers, Salah definitely a viable move if you have a De Bruyne or a Fernandes or even a Son that you can move to him. A brief look at some other positions. If you're going for a forward, Isak to Mateta could be a nice way to free up some budget. You know, if you've got Isak and De Bruyne, or Isak and Bruno Fernandes maybe, you could very much move them to Salah and Mateta, and that's going to look really, really nice. Edison to Raya. Edison obviously going to be injured for the final day of the season. You can move to Raya. You could potentially move to Ortega if you want to save some money as well. And Dalot to White if you want to make a transfer in the defense. I guess you could go for White, but I really would try and focus on those midfielders and forwards. That seems to be what our experts are doing. Okay, captaincy. So we already know 1%, just one of our experts is using the triple captain on Haaland, but who else is captaining Haaland? Well, 77% of our experts will be captaining the big Norwegian in game week 38 at home against West Ham. Yeah, it's an obvious one, isn't it? It's a really, really obvious one. So yeah, just get it done. Erling Haaland. Let's go. Unless, of course, you are chasing rank. And we did see a little bit of a trend for those chasing rank to maybe bet against Haaland. If you are still looking to creep into your rank target, maybe betting against Haaland is the only way you're going to be able to do that. And therefore, maybe you go for someone else. But in terms of that someone else, well, there doesn't seem to be much agreement in the world of the experts. So we have got 6% on Salah, which is something. You know, it's not nothing. So you could potentially go for Salah. He plays against Wolves at home, as we mentioned, and it's not such a bad fixture, really. I definitely see the appeal to it. So do you want to go there? I guess it's up to you. The problem is Salah has just been blanking a lot recently, and I'm sure that is removing a bit of confidence from people. But I definitely see why you would go for him. You know, in the past, Salah's been great. Cole Palmer, Saka, you know, potential opportunities there. Not sure if I love these fixtures as much as I love the fixtures for Man City and Liverpool. We've got Eberechi Eze there. Interestingly, more people captaining Eze than they are Elise. Interesting. Phil Foden, 2%. Havertz, 2% as well. And we have a whole bunch of 1%ers. Yeah, interesting ones. We've got Nicholas Jackson. We've got Chris Wood, we've got Elise, and we've got Harvey Elliott. Yeah, like I say, Game Week 38 is weird. It's weird. It's the game week where a lot of people make decisions that don't necessarily make sense, like individually, until you speak to the person and try and work out, you know, what's going on here. But that's why we're going to focus on trends. And the trends are saying, Captain Erling Haaland, if you want to go for a differential, it's probably going to be a Salah or a Palmer. And outside of that, there's not really too much of a trend on any other captains outside of that. And one more interesting note, no one is captaining Son. Not a single person. So no one's bringing in Son. A few people are transferring out Son, and nobody is captaining him. So yeah, the experts really down on Son this game week, despite his great fixture against Sheffield United. But make of that information what you will. And after that, we need to finish off by seeing how our experts are doing this season. So to finish off this video, we're going to have a look at what the current rank, the Game Week 37 rank of our experts is this season, because I know a lot of you guys are curious to see how our experts have got on over the course of this season, and I think we've got some interesting information. So one of our experts is outside of the top 1 million, only one of them that we used this game week, and guys, don't be too surprised by that. When you're using a sample size of 100 people, then often is the case, will see some outliers. And this is just an outlier in that situation. And remember, you know, before you start judging these ranks, remember that the person who won FPL last year is outside of the top 1 million ranked this year. So that just puts into context, there's different styles of FPL management. And if you are a very risky kind of manager, you can either win FPL or you can, you know, finish outside the top 1 million. The great thing about this series is that we don't look at individuals, we look at the balance of all of the experts to try and find a more balanced, some more trends, that kind of thing, which I think is more useful. So if you are kind of thinking, hey, how can you be an expert and finish that low? Well, you know, if you look at the season this year of last year's champion, you'll probably say he's not an expert, but he's literally won FPL. So there we go. Outside of that, guys, we have got a few people inside the top 1 million. So 3% just inside the top 1 million, 12% who are in the top 500,000, I suppose. We'll put the total numbers on the right. In terms of the top 250,000, we see 15% in that 100,000 to 250,000 area. And after that, we see, you know, 69% of our experts are in the top 100,000 places already. So you're saying we're talking more than 2/3 already in the top 100,000 places. I think this is about right. Top 100,000 is about top 1%. So the top 1% of managers, most of our experts are going to be in that top 1%. But we can actually go a little bit further, as almost half of our experts are in the top 50,000 places. Yes, 49% in the top 50,000. And I think that the main concentration of our experts seems to be between 250,000 and 50,000. That seems to be where most of them are in general, although we do see quite a few at even higher ranks than that. We've got a lot of them in the top 25,000, 31%, almost a third are in the top 25k right now. Huge. Into top 10k, we've got 90% in the top 10k, 14% in the top 5k, 6% in the top 2.5k, and 1 person in the top 1,000. Although there are a few people in the top 2,500 who actually, you know, they look pretty good. Like, they look like they're going to sneak into the top 1,000 this game week. So, yeah, huge. Experts doing amazingly this week. I would say that, yes, the average rank is 127,000-ish among our experts. That's the average rank, the mean rank. So if you are doing better than the average expert, do let me know in the comments to see if you are kind of at expert level right now. Congratulations if you are. But I should also know that because of the outliers, that has brought that average up a little bit. And in general, most of our experts are actually in the top 100,000. Almost half of them are actually in the top 50,000. So yeah, be interested to see your ranks ahead of game week 37, or ahead of game week 38 as well, to see how you are doing. Like, are you doing well? Are you expert level yet? I hope you guys are. But that's going to be it for today, guys. If you have been enjoying this series this season, make sure you do drop a like and let me know in the comments. You guys know that this is my favorite video to make each week, and I think we've had another really successful season of this series this year, and hopefully it's enabled you guys to really improve your ranks by following the expert advice and following the expert trends of what they are up to. I really hope it has been helpful. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to check out another video if you would like to, but until tomorrow's team selection video, I will see you later, mates.